So the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, goes on to meet the press and absolutely dismantles Kristen Welker's argument that the Republicans are responsible for this government shutdown. You need to check this out.
Joining me now is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Mr. Speaker, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here in person. Let's talk about your latest move. You announced this week that the House will not be in session until the government reopens. But there are still things that you could be doing. There are appropriations bills that you could be working on. There's a new Democratic Congresswoman who still needs to be sworn in. Isn't there still critical work that you could be doing on behalf of the American public?
We're doing that critical work. Let me just start by saying I listened to my friend Hakeem there, and when we used to do debate competitions in high school, they taught us to watch out for the red herring. The red herring is a distraction. Literally everything my friend just said there was unnecessary, because what he's trying to talk about is a December funding issue, the health care provision, some of these Obamacare subsidies that expire December 31st. He is looking over entirely the fact that we have to keep the government open in order to have those bipartisan debates and discussions that he just referenced. The simple CR that we passed in the House more than 2 weeks ago does exactly that. It is a clean CR. It's only 24 pages in length. It's the simplest thing that's ever been done, and it's exactly what Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and all the rest of them said must be done. You saw the tape. We could roll that tape for hours, all of them saying this passionately as recently as earlier this year, that we had to keep the government open in order to do our job.
There is, Speaker, still critical work, though. And as you know, many Democrats have looked at your move. They say the House is not in session because you don't want to swear in this newly elected senator, the Democratic Congresswoman from Arizona, who would be a critical vote to releasing the Epstein files. How do you respond?
It's totally absurd.
Charge?
This has nothing to do with that. It's another red herring. The reason the government is closed is because Chuck Schumer and 43 of his Democrat colleagues in the Senate have decided now to vote multiple times to keep the government closed. We need them to turn the lights back on so that everyone can do their work. The House did our work. We passed a bipartisan, clean, continuing resolution to keep the government open. And what did Chuck Schumer send back in response? His counterproposal would add $1.5 trillion in new spending for a simple 7-week stopgap funding measure to keep the government open so all these appropriations bills can be finished. And they want to claw back $50 billion that we put in for rural hospitals to prop them up. They're not serious. This is not a serious negotiation. They're doing this to get political cover because Chuck Schumer is afraid that he won't win his next reelection bid to the Senate because he's going to be challenged by a Marxist in New York, because that's the new popular thing out there.
Well, let me ask you about some of the issues at play here, because President Trump, the White House, says it's preparing to potentially lay off thousands of federal workers. That's never been done before in a shutdown. Do you support laying off thousands of federal workers as a part of this shutdown?
We haven't seen the details yet about what's happening, but it is a regrettable situation
that
the president does not want. The president asked Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in the Oval Office about a week ago, please don't do this. Please keep the government open, and we'll work out all these issues that we have plenty of time to work out.
What do you want to see, though? Do you want to see thousands of federal workers laid off?
No, I want Chuck Schumer to do the right thing that he's done throughout his 30-plus year career in Congress and vote to keep the government open.
But it's never happened before. We see furloughs. We don't see furloughs. We don't see layoffs, though.
In a situation like this, where the Senate Democrats have decided to turn the keys to the kingdom over to the White House, they have to make tough decisions. Russ Vought runs the Office of Management and Budget. He has to now look at all of the federal government, recognizing that the funding streams have been turned off, and determine what are essential programs, policies, and personnel. That's not a job that he relishes, but he's being required to do it by Chuck Schumer.
All right. Well, let me ask you about what's at the crux of this. Democrats are demanding the funding bill include an extension of the Obamacare tax credits, as we've been talking about. They're set to expire at the end of the year. More than 3/4 of the people who get health insurance through Obamacare actually live in states that President Trump won in 2024. We're talking about some 19 million people, Mr. Speaker. Can those people depend on congressional Republicans to extend those health insurance tax credits by the time they expire?
We have plenty of time to figure that out because, again, it doesn't expire until the end of the year.
Do you commit to that?
I commit to what Republicans have always done and what we've already proven this year in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cuts. Republicans are the ones in Congress working to improve health care access, quality, and make it cheaper. We want to bring the cost down of health care. premiums are too high. But it's not because of Republican policies. It's because Obamacare is not working. We're trying to fix it. We've just shown in the one big beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, those reforms we made to Medicaid are not cuts to Medicaid. Medicaid will continue to grow. It's just growing at a slower pace. Why? Because we got illegal aliens and able-bodied young men without dependents off of Medicaid. They were never planned to be there in the first place. And what the Democrats are demanding right now to keep the government open is we put them all back on there. We're not doing that.
This entire situation is a farce. Chuck Schumer is running scared because AOC has all the momentum, and obviously she's going to overthrow Chuck Schumer, who's old, antiquated, and he has no purpose in the Senate anymore. AOC is the next hot wave, so she's going to challenge him, and he doesn't have a chance of beating her, so he's got to put his foot down, and he has to take a challenge against Donald Trump. When in reality, the only people that he's hurting are everyday Americans. We want the government open. We want them to pass the legislation that helps America, but you can't do that if Congress is shut down, and it's absolutely asinine. They have a clean spending bill, but they refuse to do it because they want to use the government shutdown as blackmail to prioritize their agenda and mission for the end of the year. There's plenty of time to work on that, but instead they would rather have the government shut down and say, we're standing up for you, America. We're doing this. Donald Trump and the Republicans shut down the government, but we are here to protect you. When in reality, that could not be further from the truth. The fear-mongering is insane. Like, do you actually believe Donald Trump is going to shut down Americans' healthcare and they're not going to have anywhere to go? They're going to be without health insurance? Does anybody with a brain believe that? Donald Trump just wants to make sure that the people who are receiving these benefits are American citizens and are not in this country illegally. This is common sense stuff, but the Democrats want to do is try and confuse the American people so they don't know what to believe. They just see a government shutdown. They know Donald Trump's in power and they say, oh, Donald Trump did something. The government shut down. These people are maniacal.
Table here for folks, and I'll just, Leader Jeffries talked about this, but just to reiterate to you the point that he just made, undocumented immigrants, as you know, are actually ineligible for
wrong.
federal health care.
No, let me correct you.
Let me say it,
Yeah.
then you can talk, okay? Right now, undocumented immigrants are not eligible for federal health care programs. Democrats, as you heard, say they're not trying to change that. But one of their demands would restore Medicaid funding for hospitals to give emergency care, including to undocumented immigrants. Are you suggesting, Mr. Speaker, that ER doctors check people's immigration status before they render emergency care?
No. Again, it's another red herring. What the Democrats are demanding is that illegal aliens that care for them in an emergency room should be reimbursed at a higher rate.
To the hospitals.
To the hospitals than American citizens, young pregnant women. They want to pay more for illegal aliens than U.S. citizens, and we are against that. The reason it's illegal right now for illegal aliens to receive taxpayer-funded benefits is because Republicans wrote it into the law July 4th. Don't take my word for it. Look at page 57, section 2141 of Chuck Schumer's counterproposal. It's on my website at speaker.gov. Everybody go look. Don't take my word for it. Read their section. They want to reverse those changes.
But first of all, law was put in place during the Reagan administration, which guarantees that anyone who walks into a hospital gets critical
It still
care.
applies.
So are you saying, because basically the implications of what you're implying is that ER doctors should be checking people's immigration. If someone walks into a hospital and they're bleeding out, should an ER doctor not render care to that person?
No, it's another red herring. I'm not implying that at all. Everyone knows when the hospitals seek reimbursement from the federal government, what they did under the Biden administration is they set in place a program that pays the hospitals more for illegal aliens than U.S. citizens. That is outrageous. If you look at on speaker.gov, you can see step by step, there's 5 different sections of our repeals of the law we did in July 4th. The Democrats are demanding to reverse right now. It will spend $200 billion of hardworking taxpayer funds to pay for health care for illegals. We're not doing that.
What you reference refers to lawfully present people who are here, immigrants, DACA recipients. Let me move on, though, because we are running out of time, though. I want to move on to a speech that President Trump gave earlier this week to the nation's top military leaders. Take a listen. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
It seems that the ones that are run by the radical left Democrats, what they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within.
Do you support the American military being used to fight American citizens?
That's not what the president just said there. That's a mischaracterization of what he said.
What-
there is a
what do
war
you
on
believe he
crime.
said?
There is a war on crime. And I will use as example A what's happened here in the District of Columbia. We're much safer. Everyone on your staff could walk from their cars to the studio this morning. Why? Because there are National Guard troops patrolling the streets. Before this, it was a literal war zone. This is one of the most dangerous cities in America. What he's saying is he's the president for law and order. He's restoring the safety of American citizens. You should not have to fear to walk to your car this afternoon, and you don't have to now because President Trump is in charge.
You're saying it's a literal war zone. Crime was decreasing here in the nation's capital.
Oh, really?
The
Well, then why did the
Guard was
Democrat
sent in.
mayor
But
say
let me-
thank you so much for bringing in the reinforcements?
Okay, but war zone's a different characterization. We know that the president just sent in 300, is saying 300 National Guard troops will be sent into Chicago. Again, the governor saying he doesn't want that. Is this an appropriate use of the U.S. military, Mr.
I don't think you
Speaker?
should ask the governor. I think you should ask the citizens who are in fear for their lives and livelihoods
What
in these
say
cities.
you, though? What say you about the use of the American military in this way in U.S. cities?
I've talked with National Guardsmen who are here in D.C. They are proud of the work they've done, and the people here are benefiting from it greatly, not Republicans, everybody, because it's a safer street. This is this greatest nation in the history of the world, this most beautiful capital city. It should be safe. The model here could be the model elsewhere. And in a few of these blue states, in deep blue cities that are run by soft on crime mayors, they need some help. The citizens need help. President Trump is a bold leader who's providing it.
All right, worth noting that the citizens did elect the mayors and the governors.
Some
who
of them
were
regret
pushing
that.
If there's crime going on in a city, wouldn't everybody in unison agree? We want to get rid of the crime. And just think about it for a second. If you live in Washington, D.C. and you have a young family, you want to go to the park, but this is before the National Guard got there, you can't do that peacefully because in the back of your mind, and the statistics show, this is not a safe place to be. You don't want to put that risk on your family. So does it really matter what was used in order to quell this crime? I don't think so. The National Guard was needed because Washington, D.C. was not safe. The same goes for all these cities across America. Detroit, New York City, Chicago. If you're walking on the sidewalk on a random night, are you going to feel safe and secure? No, simple as that. And the fact that there were people in Washington, D.C. protesting that the National Guard was there and cleaned up the streets, and they were mad about it, shows you how off their priorities are. If you ask me, that means you are completely irrational, you have lost all common sense, and you're only saying that because you despise Donald Trump. If Joe Biden did it, you'd be praising him, saying he's a hero. And you know what? Even though I disagree with what a lot of Joe Biden said and did, if he did something like that, I would applaud him. I would say that's commendable. He's cleaning up the cities across America. But too many people have Trump derangement syndrome, hate him so much that they can never acknowledge the good actions and deeds that he does. The man can cure cancer and people would still be mad at him. But in regards to this government shutdown, it is completely unnecessary, and the only people it's hurting are the American people. And these Democrats like Chuck Schumer and the 44 others who refuse to vote yes, there needs to be repercussions for their incompetence. So my plea to Americans is that if you see this and your senator is refusing to get the government open to pass a clean spending bill, then you need to vote them out of power. They don't belong in that position. There are way too many people in Congress today that don't have the betterment of Americans in their mind. All that they're focused about is political grandstanding and standing up to Donald Trump, and it's sad. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. What do you think of Mike Johnson as the Speaker of the House? How would you rate his performance 1 to 10? And if you could, would you replace him with anybody else? Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.